Hey y'all, I just wanted to jump in here quick with a little bit of an update. Disputed Origin made a bigger, more in-depth video about this, but I figured in case the 4 of you who don't watch him as well as me didn't see this, it should be important and should be said. Skip to the timestamp if you don't really care about the professional update stuff. But anyways, we're working on a PC patch. They've released a notice that they are looking into fixing things, which is very exciting, and that apparently it's going to be shipped to PC first, which is really good. I know that in a perfect world, you know, they'd ship it out to both consoles and PC at the same time. However, I think this is better, as the vast majority of players are on PC anyways, so this should be able to help out initially. I've heard that the Xbox patch is out and you can actually play the game now, so that's good news, I suppose. I still don't recommend buying the DLC until it's like fully finished, or at least we have like a decent place where most of the game-breaking bugs are gone. But anyways, just a quick rundown. I'm not going to read through all of these, but especially things like right here. The biggest one is that they're looking into getting rid of the FPS codebase. So that's the biggest one, and is incredibly important, and that's really nice. They're also looking to fixing the Mythics being invincible glitches, item highlight problems, which was apparently a glitch. I assumed it was intended, but it's not. Especially the multi-shops one being just very hard to see, and just everything else. Everything else is very cool. The other biggest one that's important here is where is it? Not right there. Right here. The Rally Point Delta teleporter glitch where it was spawning inside the crate. That's a problem and is looking into be fixing. Obviously the wording of "we plan" here all over everywhere is a little concerning. Like, don't just say "we plan," just say "we are fixing it." Maybe it's a legal thing, but I don't know. It's a little concerning, but obviously this is sort of a nitpick. So, and last but not least, they're looking in matching the pricing problems to closely match the prices of Survivor of the Void, which is huge news. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the video up ahead. I just wanted to give you guys like a bit of an update before we go in. And yeah. With the recent Seekers of the Storm DLC, we've seen what some terrible items can look like. While it's a shame that these are part of the game officially, unbalanced items are kind of my specialty. Taking inspiration from this recent update, I asked my viewers and members of my Discord to send me their absolute worst and most unbalanced Risk of Rain 2 item concepts. I'm going to show you my favorite of the submissions and also attempt to balance the concepts to the best of my ability. And just for fun, I decided to draw these concepts myself as poorly as I could, giving myself only 30 seconds in Photoshop to draw them down. There's not really much more to say about it than that, so I'm just going to fulfill my self-assigned long intro requirement by thanking you all for 5,000 subscribers. When I started this channel back in 2021, I never expected it to get nearly as much traction as it did. A while back, in the early days of my channel, I said this during my Stray playthrough. I'm just gonna start this whole episode off with just a massive thank you. Hello? 7.1 hours of watch time yesterday? What happened? That's nuts. That's so crazy. I really honestly don't feel like I deserve that. That's insane. Y'all, that's so cool. It is amazing how far we've come since then, and I cannot thank you enough. The recent popularity may have been from a video that I'm not too proud of for having to make, but I still appreciate all the support. Without further ado, enjoy the video. In a video about unbalanced and crazy items, there was bound to be plenty of lunars. Exactly half of the submissions were lunars, so I mean, there's gonna be a lot of those in here. Our first of many lunar items was submitted by Flu and is the Forced Conversion. This item applies stacks of undefined on enemies, and on reaching 10 stacks, you convert the enemy to fight for you, and giving him an arbitrary number of your items as well. The gimmick that makes this item a lunar is that the enemies can still damage you even after you corrupt them. What I think is funny about this item, we kind of just reinvented the Happiest Mask, as while the Happiest Mask ghosts cannot damage you directly, selfish abilities such as the Clay Dune Strider's lifesteal attack will still hurt you, so I just find this very funny. The only change I can think of for this item is to change the wording so that the corrupted enemy just gains free will and is essentially a third freestanding player, attacking everything on sight, including including you. I think it's hilarious to think of the balance of having what is essentially a teammate that both helps to kill things but also steals the money you would have gotten from killing those things yourself, just like normal multiplayer. Our next item is Ahoy. This item is an equipment that is honestly just kind of fine and balanced. What it does is simply deal damage in some undisclosed way to all enemies within the teleport radius when you activate it. It also has an alternative ability where if you give it to an equipment drone, it revives you and gives you a random equipment. I honestly find this really interesting, and I think that an equipment or ability that is basically a reverse Lepton Daisy is really cool. I'd like this especially if it had another hidden mechanic where if you were playing on Eclipse or using the focus convergence, it would deal more damage as the area of effect is smaller. As for reviving on death, the new Seed of Life item literally does this. However, this concept differs in that it has to be held by an equipment drone in order to receive the effect. This item would achieve something that I think a lot of items from the Seekers of the Storm DLC didn't, and that is that it actually rewards the player for learning what it does and actively using it. A lot of items in the DLC, especially things like the Prayer Beads, Chronic Expansion, Antler Shield, and others, have barely noticeable or completely unnoticeable effects. And this silly item concept that is intended as a joke does that job much better. Rant aside, I genuinely think that this item doesn't really need balancing. Its only active effect is activated during the teleporter fight, and its passive effect is genuinely fun and rewarding. I'd love to see this in the game someday. Going back to the Lunars, we have a very fun one called Demotion. This item decreases all of your stats, but in exchange for this, gives enemies a small chance to pity you and fight for you on your side, while simultaneously giving you an undescribed morale boost. The special gimmick that really made me love this item is that after picking it up, more and more of this item, all of the text that shows up in the game, including item descriptions, prices, and more, all start becoming blacked out, like a redacted document, as you slowly lose permission to see them. I think this is a very clever downside, as what it will end up doing is making you waste time. You won't know how much money you'll need for a legendary chest, so you'll just have to guess when you have enough. What could be even crazier is if your current money in the top corner was also blacked out, meaning that you'd also have to guess everything's price. This is hilarious to me, as I feel like creative things like this are just so cool to think of. The only way I can really think to balance this is to make the upside much better, make the allies much stronger in some way, so it actually is worth taking for the heavy hit in your overall stats. Other than that, I love this item, and I want it in the game immediately. As for any of my concept videos, if any modders are watching, I am begging you to make any of my ideas real, because I just need that, please. Please, I'm begging you, and I absolutely refuse to learn how to code. Our next item is a strange one, as if the others weren't. This item is a void item that comes from Homemade Calamity, and is called Immolation. What it does is that it deals 150% base damage to all enemies and allies within range, as well as burning them for 150% damage over time. It corrupts the gasoline and has a cute gimmick where as you take more damage from this item, your body seems to deteriorate more until it becomes a skeleton when you die. This is cute. However, the positives of this item don't really exist. Not only does it not really do that much more damage to enemies than the gasoline does, but it also hurts you. I think that the only way to balance this is to make it do much more damage to enemies and much less damage to you, because there really isn't any reason to take it over the gasoline right now. Its gimmick is cute, but I honestly feel like I wouldn't notice it much. It wouldn't impact gameplay at all, and I'd prefer if, like, as you slowly deteriorated, you lost stats or something. Something to make it feel more dynamic. Back to the Lunars, and we have one that I just love. Hover's Craft. No, not Hovercraft. Is a new lunar made by some random dude that is pretty simple. All it does is make you float slightly higher off the ground with every new stack. This is hilarious to me, as there would be a sweet spot where you are floating just high enough off the ground to avoid enemies, but you also couldn't get back down unless you had some sort of directional movement ability. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to reach the teleporter, but is that really necessary? Who cares about progressing the game when you can float ominously over all the enemies while rightfully asserting dominance? No changes for the item, it's perfect. perfect. One of only 2 common item suggestions I got for this was from Art Knight, and is the Gambler's Charm. This is another item that genuinely just feels balanced already, and I still love the idea. What it does is simple. It increases the chances for you to get a legendary item out of chests in large chests up to a limit of 10%. This is genuinely cool, and as far as I'm concerned, decently balanced, as unless you found a printer for these, it wouldn't really be that strong. Its fun gimmick is to make a slot machine noise if you succeed, which I think is super fun. Even if it doesn't really do anything, the fun noise would feel good and make me want to pick this item up even if it wasn't very good. There isn't much more to say about it than that. I'm just like Pavlov's dog, waiting for a treat that is a cute little fun noise. Now for this next item. I wanted to add a little bit to it. For those of you who don't already know, I have a disorder called chronic fatigue that basically just makes me tired all the time, with few exceptions. So my thought process is, if I have to deal with this miserable disorder for every day of my life, why don't the enemies have to as well? It's not really fair that I have this natural hindrance in the game, and it's not even because of the FPS-reliant codebase. So how about this? How about we make an item that makes the enemies tired as well? And that's just what Dragon Geek from the Discord did. Pillow is our new uncommon item that makes enemies 0.0001% slower for every second that the in-game timer moves on. I have had 75 plus minute long games where I've literally fallen asleep mid-recording because I have been so exhausted. It's not fair that the enemies don't have to deal with that too. No balancing necessary. This item is perfect. Another item here, and this one is for the collectors out there. This item is from one of my mods, Nia, and does, it does nothing. There's nothing that it gives you, and it doesn't boost your stats in any way. It just sits there. The value of it, however, comes from the fact that you can only get it after holding one of every item in the game. This is so silly to me, and would never be added to the game, but like, it's still really creative. A little crown for the 0.000000001% of players that will ever get the achievement of holding one of every item at once. It might be cooler if it actually did something, maybe gave you like a Steam achievement if you won while carrying it or something, but honestly, I like the idea as is. Overall, I just kind of want more achievements for the sake of having a goal in the game. All of the achievements now are made to earn a new item or skin, but like, as an avid Dead by Daylight player, I love when there are a bunch of achievements that don't really earn you anything except for like a silly little badge on your Steam profile or something like that. Ever wanted to bring the squids from Mario Kart into Risk of Rain 2? Well, now you can, with the new and improved Overgrease Cog lunar item. Gain a major movement speed and cooldown boost at the cost of being blinded every time you use an ability. Who needs eyes when you can use slicing winds a little bit more often than you otherwise could? I sure don't. I love this item, and I think it's hilarious to think of it being part of a run. I'm sure some Eclipse players would try to claim that this item is actually OP, since if you can rely solely on your hearing, there's no actual downside to this item. They'd get mad at me for ranking it low on my tier lists, as they think that their opinion is the only one that matters. I can see the comments now. Anyways, this item is perfect. I have no notes or changes because this is just the perfect amount of silly. Something about wacky visual effects really win me over, I think. I'm not sure what it is. This next one I feel shouldn't even be on the list of items that are supposed to be bad and unbalanced. This item is called Corruption and is a looter item. What it does is incredibly simple, basically just converting all of your healing into increased base damage. This sounds ridiculously overpowered, especially because it's worded like it just turns 100% of your healing into added base damage, and that could get out of hand fast. It also includes a bit where it doesn't corrupt your regeneration, but I feel like since items like the Titanic Knurl and Cautious Slug exist, this would be really easy to mitigate. Your potential maximum healing is much lower, sure, but it isn't nearly as bad as it could be. Because of this, I think the best way to balance it is to lower the conversion rate of healing to damage. Something like 50% would be fine, because if you had 30 total healing, that's still a 15% damage increase. Other than that, I love lunar items that seem like they are all positives, but in giving you a bunch of one thing, it takes away from another. Things like the Transcendence, which might increase your health a bunch, but it also removes your ability to use most healing items. Our penultimate item here is the Pocket P.I.G, also known as the Pocket Personal Item Goblin. This item is perfect for me, as I am one of those players that unconsciously picks up every item on the map when playing multiplayer, while forgetting that I even have teammates. What this item does is that upon activation, you summon a little robot that, quote, moves at the speed of light towards dropped items on the ground. After 20 seconds, the item goblin will immediately return to you with all of the items it was able to collect in that time. It has a cooldown of 120 seconds, and it is just hilarious. I can imagine that this would genuinely be useful, especially in cases like the Artifact of Sacrifice. With the new Sonorous Whispers item as well, you could save a ton of time by grabbing all the items on the map without having to go out of your way to go get them yourself. I'd like to think that this item could also be a curse as well, if it also picked up every dropped lunar and void item on the ground too. Sure, you'd get that legendary that you forgot to pick up from the Alloy Warship unit fight, but you are also holding a Stoneflux Pauldron now. I just think it would be so silly to steal all the items off the map from your friends as well, and would love to see this if someone made a mod for it. The speed of light might be a little bit overkill though. And our final item just pushes the silly bar to the max. This item is called the Unix Epoch, and is a lunar item. However, where lunar items usually have decent or overpowered upsides, this item is literally only downsides. All it does is, well, it kills you. It kills you sometime in the future, and the only way to delay this is to grab more stacks of it before the time runs out. Now, I love this item for being silly, but I also love it because I feel like it could reasonably change into something cool and balanced. I have two ideas on how to do this. The first is to make it give you some pretty decent buff when you carry it. Plus 30% to all stats or something sounds decently fair, as the item will kill you. On top of this, make the timer before it kills you visible on screen, or when you hover over it in the inventory. This way, the player would have a more reasonable way to expect when they are going to die, as dying randomly isn't very fun. I love the idea of rushing to the bazaar between time and constantly refreshing the shop as the timer slowly ticks down. It'd be like its own little saw trap in a way, and I find this hilarious. The other change I wanted to possibly make to this item is to keep it so that it's only downsides, except this time it becomes tied to a new artifact. The Artifact of Loss. After activating the Artifact of Loss, every item you pick up now has a 5% chance to be the Unix Epoch. You wouldn't know it was the Epoch until you had already picked it up, and it was too late. Doing this starts the timer, and changes the run for the worse as death crawls ever closer. To avoid this, you would either have to speedrun to finish the run before it would kill you, or you'd have to frantically pick up every item you find in hopes that it was another Epoch to reset the death timer. This all just sounds like a ton of fun to me, and I love it when artifacts completely change the game like this. I feel like it would honestly be genuinely stressful trying to find another stack before it killed you, and I just love that. Also, before we move on, I thought it was incredibly important to include that in looking for pictures of pocket watches to use as reference for the art in the video, I found this guy. I don't know what he's up to, but his attentions cannot be good, and he is sinister in nature and cannot be trusted. Anyways, that's the video. Did you enjoy these silly item concepts as much as I did? Let me know about it in the comments below. Also, be sure to post your own silly, stupid, and unbalanced item concepts in the comments as well. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. If you did enjoy the video, please subscribe. We made it to 5,000 yesterday, which was way faster than I expected, so I suppose the new goal is to reach 5,500 subscribers by the end of the year. Anyways, thank you for watching. Here's hoping the patches that are on the way are not the last, and that this isn't the end of Risk of Rain 2. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel by going that extra mile, and bye-bye.